channel. Today we continue our series creating miniature armies, and we're going to talk about the wars of Breton Succession. This video is divided into 4 segments. The first segment would be to explain the background behind these wars. Then we're going to talk about the armies that participated, and I'm going to show you some miniatures so you know how you can game and what types of miniatures you can use for this period. Then we're going to talk about 4 or 5 famous battles and the commanders, and we're going to see their deployment. And at the end, I'm going to show you famous commanders who participated in these wars. So without any delay, let's talk about the War of Breton Succession. It was a conflict between the Counts of Blois and the Montforts of Brittany for control of the Sovereign Duchy of Brittany, then fief of the Kingdom of France. It was fought between 1341 and the 12th of April 1365. It's also known as the War of the Two Jeannes, due to the involvement of the 2 rival duchesses of that name, Joanna of Flanders and Jeanne de Penthièvre. Now, these are the 2 coat of arms of the Blois family and the Montforts. The war formed an integral part of the early 100 Years' War due to the proxy involvement of the French and the English monarchs in the conflict. The French supported the Blois female heir, whilst the English backed the Montforts male heir. The rival kings supported the sovereign duke of the Principal opposite to their own claims to the French throne, the Plantagenet having claimed it by female succession and the Valois by male succession. If you remember, Edward III claimed the French throne through his mother, but he supported the Montforts, who were through their male heir. So let's talk a little bit about the armies that participated in this war. So we have the Kingdom of Castile, we have the Kingdom of France, the Kingdom of England, Charles of Blois, Chatillon, and Jeanne of Montfort, House of Montfort, Brittany. So you can see, if you have a French army, you basically have 3 armies. You have the Blois army that will have French, obviously, and Britons. You have the Montfort army, who's French again, with Britons, and you can have some English allies. So by having a French army and adding a couple of coat of arms that will be the Montforts or the Blois, you can really have as many battles as you want with a small contingents of English longbows and men-at-arms. Very interesting because basically the French will dominate your armies and will look like actually a civil war. It's actually very interesting that with a French army you can have basically 2 armies, even 3 with a small English contingent. So let's see some miniatures. We're talking about 1341 to 1365. You can see here that these are claymore castings, the same period of Poitiers and a little bit later but before Crecy, so chainmails, we've seen this before, helms, shields, the longbowman with padded cloths. You have here again men-at-arms with partial plate armor, but again a lot of chainmail. I think a very interesting period, the same as Poitiers, the same as Crecy, the same period exactly, with a lot of materials, not too much armor, plate armor, or partial plate armor here and there. So you can see here some English commanders. Again, you see the plate, but again chainmail and a lot of padded cloths are there as well. It's not like the late period. Here again, the French with shields. Obviously, shields played important part in this period as well. And mounted knights, you see Captal de Buch. Again, there is plate in the highborn knights, but you see again a lot of chainmail and shields, and quite more interesting combination than you have in the later part. So let's talk about some famous battles of the period that you can fight. Very interesting battles with very, very interesting commanders. So we go first in the Battle of Châteaucaun. This was fought by Charles of Blois of Chatillon and John de Montfort. The Battle of Châteaucaun, fought on 1341, often called the Battle of de la Homme, if I could pronounce it correctly, was the opening action of the 23-year-old War of the Breton Succession, a dynastic conflict in the Sovereign Duchy of Brittany, which became inevitably embroiled in the Hundred Years' War between England and France. This battle should have decided the war at a stroke, as John of Montfort, the leader of the faction, was made prisoner. However, his wife, Joanna of Flanders, and his young son escaped imprisonment. Their escaped and continued support from his ally England allowed continued resistance to flourish and eventually turn the tide. Another very famous battle, and this is a battle you can find, is the Battle of Morlaix, very famous battle. The Battle of Morlaix was fought in Morlaix on the 30th of September 1342 between the Anglo-Breton and the Franco-Breton forces in Brittany. You see, you can have Britons who are basically French and some English contingent and the French, and you can have two armies that are very interesting. It's nice to see English and French fighting together. The Anglo-Breton under the English command besieged the town, but the Franco-Breton relief force arrived. The English constructed a strong defensive position. After repeated attacks, the French forced the English to retreat into the woods, and the French force then withdrew. Now, this is a very famous battle, the Battle of Morlaix. You have three amazing, very famous commanders from the English part. You have Northampton, you have John de Vere, his brother-in-law, the Earl of Oxford, and you have the Earl of Derby. From the other side, you have the Count of Blois, you have Geoffrey de Charny, the famous Oriflamme banner bearer who was killed in Poitiers by Chandos or Reginald Cobham, I'm not sure, I think by Chandos. And then you have Robert of Artois. This battle is very famous because this is the first time a tactical withdrawal was done in the history of a strategy by the English. Basically, Northampton could not defeat the French, but he managed to control their attacks. He managed to stop them and then slowly withdrew in the woods. A very famous battle. It's very easily can be reenacted. Then we have the Battle of Saint-Paul-de-Léon, a very famous battle. The Battle of Saint-Paul-de-Léon was a minor action during the Breton War of Succession and thus part of a larger 100 Years' War. The battle was fought in June 1346 and marked a minor turning point in the fortunes of the Montfortists and their English allies in Brittany, following several setbacks, including the imprisonment and subsequent death of their leader John of Montfort. This was fought by Sir Thomas Duckworth, one of the heroes of the Wars of Succession, and Charles of Blois, the Duke of Brittany. Now, the Battle of La Roche-de-Rien, another very famous battle. The Battle of La Roche-de-Rien was one of the battles of the Breton Wars of Succession. It was fought on the 20th of June 1347, during the fight between the Anglo-Breton and the Franco-Breton forces. Approximately 4,000 to 5,000 French, Breton, and Genoese mercenaries, the largest field army ever assembled by Charles of Blois, laid siege to the town of La Roche-de-Rien in the hope of luring Sir Thomas Duckworth, the commander of the only standing English field army in Brittany at that time, into an open-pitched battle. So we see here the Sir Thomas Duckworth, the location on the left, and Charles of Blois, a very famous battle, the Battle of La Roche-de-Rien, and Sir Thomas Duckworth, one of the heroes of the period. Now, the Combat of the 30, everybody knows the Combat of the 30, a very strange battle. Now, it was fought by the supporters of Charles de Blois or Jean de Beaumanoir, if I pronounce him correct, and from the English was Robert Bamborough. I could not find the coat of arms of Robert Bamborough. I searched a lot, so if anybody has them, I'm very interested to see them. So the Combat of the 30 occurring on the 26th of March 1351, was an episode in Britain War of Succession fought to determine who would rule the Duchy of Brittany. It was an arranged fight between selected combatants from both sides of the conflict. Fought at a site midway between the Breton castles of Joscelin and Paul-le-Rommel among 30 champion knights and squires on each side. The challenge was issued by Jean de Beaumanoir, a captain of Charles of Blois supported by King Philip IV, the Sixth of France, to Robert Bamborough, a captain of Jeanne de Montfort, supported by Edward III of England. That battle must have been really interesting. Now, the Battle of Moron Moron, no Moron, I don't think it's Moron. The Battle of Moron was fought on 1352 in Brittany during the Breton War of Succession between the Anglo-Breton force supporting the claim of Jeanne de Montfort and a Franco-Breton force supporting the claim of Charles de Blois. The Anglo-Bretons were victorious. The battle took place in the context of the Hundred Years' War. So here you see in the Battle of Moron, a very interesting battle. You see Robert Knowles, our commander for the campaign, and Sir Walter Bentley, another commander, was the English forces, against Guy de Nesle, this is the French commander, and Jean de Beaunoir, who won the Battle of the 30. Again, you see, you can fight this battle very easily. You can see the Sir Robert Knowles, you can see the longbowman, the man-at-arms in the middle, and the French trying to attack with infantry in the center, and on the left flank, the mounted knights. It's quite an interesting battle it looks. The Battle of Auray, another very famous battle. The Battle of Auray took place on 29th of September 1364 as the Breton-French town of Auray. This battle was a decisive confrontation of the Breton War of Succession, a part of the Hundred Years' War. In the battle, which began as a siege of a Breton army led by the Duke John de Montfort, assisted by English forces commanded by John Chandos, opposed the Breton army led by his rival Charles of Blois, assisted by French forces led by Bertrand de Guesclin. You see the commanders that participated in this war. One of the best commanders out there came and helped. So you see here, amazing lineup. So you have Bertrand de Guesclin in the center, Charles of Blois on the left, on the right, and Chalon on the left. And you have Sir John Chandos, you have de Montfort, you have Robert Knowles, and you have Sir Hugh Calverley, who in the back commanded the reserves, although he protested. He didn't want to command the reserves. Another battle you can fight, you see always the English in a defensive position. Let's see, and in elevated positions, typical English formations, and the French trying to attack as usual. So let's talk about commanders. Now, let's talk about commanders that I have. And obviously, there are more than ones you saw in these battles I showed you. But let's see commanders. So we have English commanders. First of all, the hero Sir Thomas Dugworth, one of the greatest commanders of the wars of Breton Succession. He fought in many battles and he was very famous. So this is Thomas Dugworth. The miniatures are from Claymore Castings. Then we go Sir John Chandos, another great hero who came and helped in this proxy war. You see many commanders came, fought in battles, supported, and then left because obviously the Hundred Years' War had started and it was ongoing. So Sir John Chandos, another great commander for the English who participated. Then you have John de Vere, 7th of Oxford, who participated in the Battle of Morlaix, supporting his brother-in-law, and one of the greatest, in my opinion, commanders. He was commanding the left flank, or part of the left flank, with his longbowman at Poitiers. One of my favorite commanders, John de Vere. Then you have his brother-in-law, another of my favorite commanders, William de Bohun, first Earl of Northampton, fought in Poitiers, fought in Crécy, fought here in the Battle of Morlaix. Great commander, great hero. It's a brilliant, brilliant commander, very famous. And obviously, I don't know, no, in Poitiers, he was not in Poitiers, he was only in Crécy, I think. Again, all these are Claymore castings. Now, Henry of Grosmont, Duke of Lancaster, one of the royal blood, one of great commander, but generally a great character. He had, if you read his let's say history in Wikipedia, it's pages and pages. He's a patron. He was very educated, a great commander who participated partially in the wars of Breton Succession and in the Battle of Morlaix. So let's go to the French commanders and see what we have for the French commanders. Again, famous French commanders participated partially in this war. So we have Bertrand de Guesclin, the Fox of Brittany, the commander, Marshal of France, who won back all France after the death of the Black Prince, well, after the illness of Black Prince, and the Edward III was old at that time. But Bertrand de Guesclin, with his strategy, just took all France. So he participated in the wars of Breton Succession. He was captured by Thomas Dugworth, I think, or by Sir John Chandos in one of the battles, one of the greatest commanders of France. Then you have obviously Geoffrey de Charny, the Oriflamme bearer, as you said, as you see, he participated. In the Wars of Breton Succession. Great commander. He was killed in the Battle of Poitiers. Great knight, great hero. And this is the character again. You see here holding him the oriflamme, and these are all claymore castings. What you're seeing here. Actually, no. Geoffrey Deschamps, Bertrand de Coquelin, all the mounted are first corps. My mistake. The mounted Bertrand de Coquelin is first corps. So here, Gilles de Montmorency, Sieur de Laval, another commander who participated in the Wars of Breton Succession. This is first corps miniatures, guys. My mistake. Interesting commander, is not extremely famous, but he participated and he was with Bertrand de Coquelin at the Battle of Auray, supporting his left flank. Then Charles, Duke of Brittany, you see his Blois coat of arms and Brittany coat of arms. Again, these all are from First Corps, brilliant miniatures, the mounted ones. I don't have foot. I'm planning to get some to see how they look. So Charles, Duke of Brittany, again, one of the challenger of the Montforts. Great commander, and as you can see here, these beautiful miniature from First Corps. So this for me, guys. This is the creating miniature armies. I hope I gave you a good impression of the Wars of Breton Succession and how you can wargame it, and what miniatures you can use and what major battles you can fight. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and bye-bye.